What's going on there, YouTube? Welcome back to another comic book video. Okay, so we're going to continue our coverage over the Immortal Hulk. And really, we're only covering 2 more chapters of the actual series. Now, in those 2 chapters, we're going to see the battle between the Hulk going up against the Sasquatch. Now, this is really important for both characters, but also it begins the process of us learning a whole lot more about the Green Door. Now, in our last video, we only heard a tad bit about the Green Door, and that is really it. But this chapter right here is saying like, hey, the Green Door has huge connections to both Bruce Banner and also Sasquatch and possibly other characters who were infected by gamma radiation. And you see what I mean as we go through today's video. And so getting into the opening pages for today's storyline, we actually pick up with a character known as Jacqueline McGee. Now, when it comes to Jacqueline, she's actually a reporter from Arizona. Now, the thing for her is that she's trying her best to find the Hulk, to prove the Hulk is alive. Let me explain why. Because for the Hulk, he died back in Civil War II. And so for the public, they believe the Hulk is actually dead. They don't know exactly that he is alive again. Now, there is another reason why she's trying her best to find the Hulk. But either way, every single time the Hulk does something across America, and right after he leaves, she appears, trying to chase him down to get that proof that he is alive. Now, luckily for Jacqueline, she was able to get a hold of Walter Lankowski. Now, Walter is Sasquatch in Marvel Comics, but also he was the old roommate for Bruce Banner back in college for just 1 semester. Now, for Jacqueline and also Walter, they are heading over to what seems to be another Hulk sighting. Now, on their way over there, you do have Walter begin to explain the start of his friendship with Bruce Banner. Now, like I said, it all began back at university. Matter of fact, Penn State University to be more exact. Now, while there, you have the two come together and build a strong friendship with one another. Now, we also learned that Bruce was kind of like a hothead character. Sometimes he was very nice, and other times straight up rude. Now, for Bruce, he was there to study gamma radiation, but for Walter, he was there on a football scholarship, but also there to study physics as well. But while being friends with Bruce Banner, over time, he began to fall in love with gamma radiation. And so for him, he changed his major over to gamma radiation. By that point, though, Bruce had left Penn State University. Now, shortly after you had Bruce leave Penn State University, it led into the origin of the Hulk. The whole idea of him being hit with a gamma radiation bomb. Now, with that bomb hitting him, he turned to the Hulk, and you had the news say like, hey guys, you see this green monster out there? It's Bruce Banner, this well-known scientist. Now, for Walter, he saw the news report and he couldn't believe the whole idea that his old friend had turned into a Hulk creature. But for Walter, he wanted to be just like Bruce. Now, for Walter, he's from Canada, and so he was able to go over to Department H. Now, Department H is one of the secret government branches out there in Canada, but they were down with the idea of hitting Walter with gamma radiation to possibly get their own Hulk as well, just in case the Hulk does come over to Canada. Now, with that being said, he was hit with gamma radiation, and he was then turned into, as we all know, Sasquatch. Now, while you have Walter trying to tell this story over to Jacqueline, we also kind of learn why she wants to find the Hulk so badly. We get this 1-page flashback where we do learn that for Jacqueline, she saw the Hulk destroy her entire city. And with that happening, she looked into the eyes of the Hulk. And ever since that moment, it meant something very important to her. But unfortunately, we don't learn here why it was so important for her. But getting back over to Walter's story, we do learn that for Walter, after being hit with gamma radiation and turning into the Canadian Hulk, better known as Sasquatch, while going on a rampage, well, he saw this green door. Now, this green door was actually connected to a different realm, better known as the realm of the beast. Now, here's the thing. With that green door being open, it allowed one of those great beasts to come over into the main Marvel Universe to possess his body. And that'll be a character known as Tanorak. Now, at first, for Walter, it did seem like he was actually able to control transforming into Sasquatch and back into his human form. But over time, the demon better known as Tanorak was able to take over his body piece by piece. And so sooner or later, Tanorak had complete control over his entire body. And Walter's soul was locked away in the realm of the beast. Now, for Alpha Flight, they were able to actually save him and bring him back over to the main Marvel Universe, but also locking away Tanorak forever. But again, that green door, the green door showing how important it is for a lot of different characters in Marvel Comics. Now, once you have Jacqueline and also Walter being able to arrive at the last Hulk sighting, they realize that, again, they're a tad bit too late. Bruce had disappeared once again. But for Jacqueline, she knows that if there's a bar nearby, then most likely Bruce was there. And the reason why? Because for Bruce Banner, he's always going to different bars in every town he appears in as a way to collect information about different things he's trying to achieve in those towns. And so you have Jacqueline and also Walter head over to a nearby bar to hopefully see if anybody saw him recently. Now, while being there, you do have the bartender tell both our heroes that, yeah, you know what? Bruce was here, but he left in a hurry. Now, while you have our two characters talking to this bartender, you have two guys at the bar getting very upset with one another to the point where it does seem like they're going to fight each other in the bar. Now, for Walter, he's trying to be that hero. He's all like, listen, let's go ahead and break up the fight to explain why you two are actually fighting against one another. But apparently, one of the guys were so upset with Walter and his friend, he pulls out a knife and stabs Walter right in the back. And so Walter is down. And for Jacqueline, she's freaking out. She has to call an ambulance now. Now, for Jacqueline, she was able to get Walter over to an actual hospital. Now, the doctors, they're kind of like, hey, he might not make it, but we can at least try to see if he can make it. Now, for Jacqueline, she does have a big question right now. When he was stabbed, why did he not turn into, well, Sasquatch? Now, she was able to give her statement over to a police officer, but right after giving her statement, you didn't have Bruce Banner arrive, and he sits down right next to her. Now, you do have Bruce tell Jacqueline why he is there. And he says, listen, we are following a hunch, the Hulk and I. The Hulk has the ability to follow trails that are left behind by people who were affected by gamma radiation, like Walter. And so for Bruce, he's saying we realize that there's something different about Walter. Now, you also have Bruce ask Jacqueline, how bad was his wounds? Now, for Jacqueline, the doctors told her, like, hey, he might not make it. Now, for Bruce, that is a huge problem because Bruce is saying we might lose more than just Walter. And that one line right there kind of freaks Jacqueline out. But then he says, you need to get everybody out of here now because Walter is just like us. Meaning that when it came to Walter, he was trying his best to become a second Hulk. And when he tried that, he became something like me. Meaning that in the daytime, it's our time. But at nighttime, it's their time. The Hulk and Sasquatch time. But the problem is, we might lose both Walter and possibly Sasquatch. And what he means by that statement is that there's something different about Walter. And so right after he dies, but his sun goes down, just like Bruce did back in the first chapter of Immortal Hulk, you have Walter begin to transform into Sasquatch. And Bruce knows he has to turn into the Hulk. Now, as we dive into the next chapter, we actually pick up with a flashback. Now, with this flashback, is really more about the idea that you had different members of Alpha Flight, especially for Captain Marvel, getting very worried about Walter because he always stayed in his Sasquatch form. But apparently, on different missions, he showed that he was becoming a tad bit more aggressive over time. And so she kind of got worried about the idea of him being in that form for too long. And so for Walter, he realized that maybe he should every once in a while go back to his regular human form. Except when he did and looked in the mirror, he saw this reflection of Sasquatch, but it had red eyes. Kind of seemed like something evil was trying to come out of him. But then we are able to jump back over to the present day. Now, when we do, we actually pick up with Bruce Banner telling Jacqueline, like, get everybody out of here now because things are about to pop off very soon. And so, with him saying that, he walks over to Walter. Now, when he does go confront Walter, you have Walter in his Sasquatch form. But for Hulk, he believes it's Walter in there, except the creature turns around and say, I'm not Walter. Walter is not here. And then you have Sasquatch cut the throat of Bruce Banner, basically killing him off. But as we all know, when Bruce dies, the Hulk comes out to play. Now, for this version of Sasquatch, he wanted the real person out. He wanted the Hulk, not Bruce Banner. But either way, you do have the Hulk begin a fight against Sasquatch in the middle of this hospital. Now, for the Hulk, he's kind of wondering who is truly in the body of Sasquatch, who's in the body of Walter. And so you have Bruce look at a reflection while holding the head of Sasquatch. When he looks over into the reflection, he realizes that it's not Sasquatch or some kind of demon, it's his father. It's Bruce Banner's father who's currently possessing the body of Sasquatch. Now, for Bruce Banner, this is really huge, and let me explain why. Because we had learned many years ago that for Brian Banner, he was very abusive towards both Bruce and Bruce's mother. Now, Bruce's mother died by the hands of Brian Banner, but we were left to believe that many years ago, Brian had died. But it seems like Brian is slowly coming back into the picture. Now, for the Hulk, he knows that there's no way that Brian Banner is behind all of this. It has to be somebody else. And you have Brian say, oh, there is somebody else. There is someone behind me who's way stronger. You see, this kind of person, it hides in our souls. But also, it's the opposite of everything. Where there's light, there's darkness. Where there's above, there's also below. Now, that last line right there is going to be very crucial for the ending of this entire series. Now, the way you have Bruce being able to actually end the battle is by being able to absorb all the radiation inside the body of Walter, turning him back into Sasquatch. Now, after doing that, you then have Jacqueline walk up. Now, for Jacqueline, it's more of like, okay, cool. Is he alive? And Bruce says yes. But then Bruce realized, all right, the Hulk, not Bruce. Hulk realized that, wait a second, you're that chick who has been following me around everywhere I go to across America to get some kind of story out of me. But I need to know, what is your actual purpose? Now remember, in the earlier chapter of this video, we had talked about the idea that she saw the Hulk. She looked at him in his eyes, and something happened to her that day. Something special happened between him and her. And we learn what it is. She wants to be just like him. She even asked him like, hey, Hulk, how can I be like you? Now, for the Hulk, it's like, are you serious right now? You are trying to be like who? Me? No, don't try that at all. Matter of fact, be yourself and leave me alone. And so he walks away. Now, for Walter, he wakes up and Walter realized that the Sasquatch side of him is no longer around. It seems like he had officially lost that form completely. But as you have Hulk just walking out of the hospital, he passes a car. And of course, he looks at the window of the car and he sees his reflection. Sorry, not his reflection. He sees Brian Banner in the reflection. And so we're kind of left to believe in the possibility that Brian might be in the mind of Bruce Banner and the Hulk. But this is where we're going to end today's comic book video. So please leave me a like down below and subscribe. But guys, see y'all next time. Later.